with all respect, she is uniquely bad at this job.
And her, and she still is a complete disaster.
Is there any possibility that the president would end up pardoning his son?
No.
Well, is there,
I just said no. I just answered. Go ahead. Instead of.
And today we're going to explore how the political circus is still in full swing in the Biden administration. And get ready for a no-nonsense analysis of Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre. She seems to be completely lost. Just take a look now in this video.
So we know that there'll be a very new team in place at the White House very soon. A member of the outgoing team is Karine Jean-Pierre, the press secretary for President Biden. She posted this on social media. Charlie's beside himself already. Here's to the best team in the business. I couldn't do it without you. You sort of wonder how she would be without them.
Wow.
Exactly.
Wow.
But then the question remains, did the press secretary do a good job? Discover with me next. It's impressive how Karine Jean-Pierre is trying to paint a positive picture of her team. But we already know the truth, right? It was one failure after another. And she says goodbye as a tribute to the team. But the truth is that the team lost, and they lost badly. Now take a look at the perfect comparison. What Guy Benson said about Karine.
This is
she
like,
couldn't.
And look, in fairness, when you're doing a tough job, and she has one, and you have that camaraderie, you want to pay tribute to the people that you work with, but this sort of has the same vibe to me as like someone on the Chicago White Sox from this past season, putting out a team photo and being like, what an amazing group to be a part of. They lost 121 games in Chicago this past season. That's the baseball equivalent of this press shop. I understand that President Biden didn't give them much to work with, right? It's very hard to speak on his behalf and to defend him. But with all respect, she is uniquely bad at this job.
And this comparison made by Kareem about a losing baseball team was really amazing. Also, Karine just embarrassed herself trying to defend Joe Biden, trying to justify the unjustifiable. But the people are no longer buying into that narrative. But how is it possible to fail at one of the easiest jobs in the world? Let's understand why Karine Jean-Pierre did not fulfill his role.
And she has the entire press corps almost exclusively behind her. They're doing her work for her, and she still is a complete disaster.
That's why I thought Molly Hemingway, the great Molly Hemingway, had one of the best tweets out there on this. She said, there is not an easier job in the universe than being press secretary for a Democrat. And yet somehow y'all still failed. So let's get a little bit of a look back at some of the highlights.
Do we have to?
Who some people call Binder, Karine Jean-Pierre.
Title 42 is going to be lifted. Yes, it will. But we are going to move to Title 8. The border is not open.
Is there any possibility that the president would end up pardoning his son?
No.
Well, is there,
I just said no. I just answered. Go ahead.
Instead of Republicans, focusing on the president's performance in office and what he's been able to accomplish, his actual record, they do these cheap fakes.
Is there a real alarm happening behind the scenes that the president is simply too old to stake around for another 4 years?
No, there's no alarm happening behind the scenes. I would put the president's stamina, the president's wisdom, ability to get this done on behalf of the American people against anyone.
And Mole said it all. Being a press secretary for a Democrat shouldn't be that hard, right? However, Karine managed to make this task almost impossible with so many blunders. This says a lot about the quality of leadership we have right now. And as some horrendous expressions have become part of our vocabulary, find out now.
Well,
She did say at one point as well that she and some of the staffers just could scarcely keep up with Joe Biden and his pace and his energy. And it's just like, I think laughing, unfortunately, is the right response, right? It's a joke. It was gaslighting at the time, cheap fakes. One of the creepiest things that's happened in our politics in the last year was Karine Jean-Pierre spewing out that word, cheap fakes, which no one had ever heard before, and then most of the mainstream media picking it up overnight, like through osmosis. Within hours, they're like, oh, this is a thing that we say now. And of course, it wasn't cheap. It wasn't fake. It was real. And the lie that she told to our colleague, Mark Meredith, about the pardon, for example, it's just like one greatest hit after another from this crew, starring, in many cases, her, because he, the principal, rarely spoke.
The term tip fakes, for example, is a desperate invention to try to change the narrative. And what about Biden's administration? Through Karine, tried to convince us that what we were seeing wasn't real. But the truth always comes to light. And this time was no different. Look, she's showing up now.
And sadly, it proves you can tell any lie. And it doesn't matter how big it is. If you just tell it and keep telling it and keep telling it, there's a portion of the people that believe it, and they fall in line. And then we wind up, months, years later, it turns out all the speculation about his mental incapacity.
All it took was an op-ed from George Clooney, and then they all switched over. It's crazy.
The manipulation of the truth is a powerful weapon, but over time, the truth prevails. The lie about Biden's ability, for example, is real proof that lies can even prevail for a while. But the truth always comes out. We need to demand more accountability and transparency from our leaders. And there you have it, folks. How is this new Biden administration trying to deceive the people? With lying and inconsistent narratives. And if you like this deep analysis about the truth, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, give us a like, turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of our videos, and leave your comment here. Thank you all very much. Until our next meeting.